Hey there, it's Mrs. Vara with the video lesson for 4-2 day 1. So I encourage you to pause the video and try this warm-up. It has 2 parts. So hopefully you paused the video and tried this. If you did, your slope here would have been -3/4. Your y-intercept would have been 3. Your equation in slope-intercept form would have been mx plus b, or y equals -3/4 x plus 3. Now this one is in function notation, so your first step is to write these as ordered pairs and then find your slope. You should have gotten -7/3 for your slope. This point right here is your y-intercept, so you might have started with this, but when our points are provided in function notation, the last step is we want to write our final equation in function notation. Okay, getting on to 4-2. 4-2 is when we have to write an equation of a line, but we don't have the y-intercept. But remember, to write an equation of a line, all that we need is a point and a slope. What do you need to write an equation of a line? You need a point and a slope. If you have a point and a slope, then you can write an equation of a line using this form right here, which we call point-slope form. I'm going to recommend that you put a box or highlight or something right there so you know this is what point-slope form looks like. And then this y with the little subscript 1 under it and this x with the little subscript 1 under it are where you are going to input your point. And then m, you're used to knowing that that is where you put your slope. So for point-slope form, we can use any point. Does not have to be the y-intercept. And these that we did up here, we wrote our equations in slope-intercept form, but we were given the y-intercept here and here. When they don't provide the y-intercept, we can still write an equation. We use point-slope form. So this makes sense. You need a point and a slope. In slope-intercept form, like we used up here, y equals mx plus b, you need the y-intercept. In point-slope, all you need is a point and a slope. Personally, I find this one more useful. I can take any point. So what do I need to write an equation of a line? I need a point. There's my point, -2, 1. And a slope. There's my slope, -3. So I have a point and a slope, which means I can write an equation of a line. So this is point-slope from y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. I encourage you to write this equation because after you write it 3 times, you'll probably have it memorized. This is where I'm going to put my point. That's really light, I know. Let me switch pencils here. So this is where I'm going to put my point. Now it's going to feel a little backwards because here I'm going to put my y, which is 1, and here I'm going to put my x, which is -2. This is where I'm going to put my slope. So I'm going to recopy this equation. Y and minus are part of the equation. Y1 is where I'm going to substitute in a value, so I'm going to leave a hole there. M, I'm going to put my slope in there. And then x minus x subscript 1, I usually say x sub 1 for a subscript, is where I'm going to put my x value. So your point goes here and here, your x goes here, your y goes here, so my -2 will go here, my 1 will go here, and my slope will go right here. So I'm going to do this in a different color. So y minus, there's my y. Actually, let's go over here and label this x1, y1. So add that to your notes underneath the point. So y1 is 1. y1, I'm throwing out the y1 and replacing it with the value 1, equals m. M is negative 3. X minus, so copy, x sub 1 is negative 2. I wrote it right there, negative 2. Okay, so now I substituted everything in. Now I need to do some simplifying. So this I'm just going to write as y minus 1, not a lot to simplify there, equals negative 3, not a lot to simplify there. But this, minusing a negative, is the same as adding. So this I need to write as x plus 2. Now this says write an equation in point-slope form. I have done that. This is what point-slope form looks like when you're done. It's going to have an x and a y. You're going to have another number here, so it's not going to look like slope-intercept. The y isn't going to be all by itself. The y is going to have a number with it over here, and you're going to have your parentheses here. So this is an equation in slope-intercept form. Because they said write it in slope-intercept form, I'm done right there. All right, turn the page. Let's try, these are technically your turns, but we're going to try one ourselves. I think we'll try this first one together, and then I'll have you try the second one. Now I want you to start by saying, oh, this is my point, and this is my slope. What do I need to write an equation of a line? I need a point and a slope. Label this x1, y1. Now write the formula. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Remember, the great thing about videos is if it's going too fast, just pause it and go back and fill in your notes. Now this is where I'm going to substitute values. y1, m, and x1. Everything else I'm going to copy. So I'm going to copy the y and the subtraction. I'm going to leave a space. M, I'm going to leave a space, parenthesis, x minus, leave a space, close your parenthesis. Okay, y sub 1 is negative 2. So I'm going to put my negative 2 in there. M is negative 1. X minus x sub 1, I'm going to put my negative 1 in there. Okay, that is my equation. Now I just need to simplify it. Y minus negative 2 is the same as y plus 2 equals negative 1. X minus negative 1 is the same as x plus 1. So that is my equation of a line in point-slope form. Now I would like you to pause the video and try this one. Okay, if you paused and tried this one, your first step may have looked like that. Now this I would say you can simplify one more. This is good. This is an equation of a line in point-slope form, but y minus 0 is just y. So we typically don't write minus 0 because adding or subtracting 0 doesn't change anything. So that you would just write as y equals 4/3 x minus 5. So that would be fully simplified. Okay, example 2 says, write an equation. Got to read the directions carefully now because we now know 2 different ways for writing equations of a line. This says, write an equation for the line shown in the graph in both forms, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. And we even gave you a reminder here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. That point-slope form is y equals mx plus b. So for point-slope form, I need an m and I need a b. B is your y-intercept, and I can see that when they give me a graph. Right there is my y-intercept. And that is the coordinate point over 0, down, -1, -2, -3, -4. So if my y-intercept is -4, that means my b is -4. To find the slope of this, I have a couple options. First thing I notice is this is a positive slope, so I'm going to put my plus here to remind myself that this is a puff, puff positive. And then I'm going to draw that triangle between these 2 points that they gave me, and I'm going to say, well, I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went up 4, so that's my rise. And then I went 2 to the right, so that is my run. So M is rise over run. My rise is 4. My run is 2. I can simplify that. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So there's my M, there's my B. Now I can write an equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b plus -4 is the same as -4. So I'm just going to write that as -4. Now point slope, I need a point and a slope. Well, I actually have many points on this line. I have 2 that they gave me. So I can use either of those points. So I'm probably going to do both just to show you. My slope is going to stay the same, so I know that my slope is 2. Now my points, I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to say my point is 3, 2. So that would be my x1, that would be my y1. So I'm going to start with y minus y sub 1. Remember, I'm going to substitute a value in here and here. So I'm going to have y minus, what is my y? It is a 2. And then equals, m is also 2. And then parenthesis, x minus, what is my x? My x is a 3. Okay, so I don't have anything that I can simplify. I don't have minusing and negative. So this is an equation for this line in point slope form. Now, I could also write an equation using the same slope of 2, but I could use the other point they gave me, which is 1, -2. So this time, this will be my x1, this will be my y1. So this equation will look like this. Y minus y, which is -2, equals m is still 2. And then parenthesis, x and minus, that's all copy. And now here I want to put my x value, which is 1. Okay, so this is an equation for this same line. All 3 of these equations represent this line. This one here, I have one thing I need to simplify. Minusing a negative, I need to write as a positive. So there we go. Both of these are correct. Now, incidentally, if I simplified this, if I distributed the 2 and minus this 2 from both sides, if I did some algebra here to get y by itself, I should get that exact equation. And we might do that in another one. Maybe not. Maybe that's coming later. Let's do example 3, and then I think I will call it quits for this video. Example 3 is the same thing. Write an equation for the line shown in both forms, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, so I need an m and I need a b. I always think b is the easiest thing to find, so I find that first. Here's my y-axis. Here's where my line crosses the y-axis. So that means my y-intercept is actually the origin, which means my b is 0. My slope, I don't know, this time instead of counting, I'm going to use the slope formula just to review that. So there's my template for finding my slope. I want to put my y values on the top, so I'm going to put -1 and 1. I want to put my x values on the bottom, so I'm going to put 4 and negative 4. Okay, now let's simplify that. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. 4 minus negative 4, minusing a negative is the same as adding. So this is 4 plus 4. So in my numerator I have negative 2, in my denominator I have 8. That simplifies into negative 1/4, which, when I look at this line, it is a nice negative. If I start on the left, I'm going downhill. Let's check it. Let's do the triangle and see if we agree. So I went down 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. Rise negative 1, run 4. So that's a good slope, negative 1/4. So my equation is y equals mx plus b. My negative kind of zoomed in there. Now again, this plus 0 doesn't change anything, so I would probably leave that off. Okay, same thing but point slope form. So I'm going to substitute a point in here, and I'm going to put my slope right there, which I know my slope is negative 1/4. So I can pick any point on this line. So I think for the first one I'm going to pick this point, negative 4, 1. So that will be my x1, y1. Again, stop the video if you need to. Make sure your notes have everything in it. So y minus y, my y sub 1 is 1, equals m, my m is negative 1/4, x minus, what's my x? Negative 4. Okay, one last step. Minusing a negative is the same as adding, so I'm going to write this as y minus 1 equals negative 1/4 x plus 4. Okay, that is an equation in point slope form. Now I could do another one using this point. So if I say this is my point, I would have a 4 and a negative 1. That would be my x1, that would be my y1. I would do everything the same. Y minus, in this case my y is negative 1, equals m, x minus 4. So that's good, but I need to say minusing a negative is the same as adding. So that would become y plus 1 equals negative 1/4 x minus 4. All right, there is a your turn on the next page. I encourage you to try that, and I think I will do example 4 in the next video.